Okay, looks like we got a pretty good number of people here, so we will go ahead and get started. And obviously people join us a bit later. I'd like to thank all of you for coming in. What we've got today is part of our social media career speaker series, as well as part of INE and English 253 social marketing for entrepreneurs. We've got a guest with us today. It is Julia Hamilton Trost. She's coming to us from YouTube. She is YouTube's head of shopping content partnerships, formerly head of brand and immersive content partnerships. And more importantly, she is a proud Duke alum from the absolute best class at Duke University, which is 2005. And I can attest to that personally, because of course that's my class as well. And even though I don't know that I know Julia, so, or maybe I do, and we ran, I'm sure our paths crossed. I just have no idea. Regardless, we're incredibly happy to have her. The way I usually like to run these is it's going to be kind of mostly Q&A and kind of fireside chat style from my class that's involved in this. They've submitted questions ahead of time, so I have a big old list of questions to pull from that we'll ask Julia off. So obviously we want to hear from her more than we want to hear from me or any of us. So Julia, obviously feel free to talk as long or as in detail as you want, or I guess as little, but preferably more. We'll be recording this as well, so people can go back and reference it. And a lot of what the goal of social media career speaker series here, just to lay it out, is to recognize that social media as this kind of emerging or already emerged kind of industry is one of the kind of most valuable opportunity industries for, I think, a student coming out of college right now. And there's so many good opportunities, so many careers. So we love to bring in people who are working in the space to kind of help you get a sense of where those opportunities are and how you might look at them. And of course, we got someone come from one of the biggest ones of those social media giants today in YouTube. So thank you very much, Julia, for being here. And we look forward to chatting with you. So I will open it up. Obviously, if you have questions, go ahead and type them in. We'll also kind of pause at different moments to open for questions. But the way I like to get started is to obviously welcome our guest and just kind of start with a kind of a simple question with, I'm sure, a complex answer, which is, Julia, would you mind kind of introducing yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, and kind of how you got to where you are?
Yeah, great to meet everybody. I'm so excited to see such a good crew on here. Oh, does this sound okay, Aaron?
I just realized I didn't have my volume on, so maybe it's like you talked and I didn't hear it.
Yeah,
we're good.
Perfect. Okay, we're good now. Thanks, guys, for having me. Super excited to be here. I definitely want to make this conversational and fun and informative, but casual. So yeah, Julia Trost. I graduated in 2005, like Aaron said, sorry, and was public policy major. I did a markets and management certificate, and I did a certificate of journalism within public policy. And I say that because all of that played such a role in where I am today. And that is very much the genuine truth. And I'll talk a little bit through how my Duke time and all the people, I would say the network that I had at Duke helped me get here. But I lead shopping partnerships at YouTube, which is relatively new area of focus for us. And if you think about YouTube and where we really are now, YouTube's been around since 2000. Google acquired YouTube in 2006, which is the same time I joined the company. So I've been at YouTube for a long time, or at Google for a long time. And there's two really big areas, I would say. And if you follow YouTube, you'll see this happening. Shorts. Obviously, short form content is something that's happening on a lot of platforms, and it's a great way to get bite-sized, really entertaining content. And YouTube's leaning into that now. Long form has been the bread and butter, and I think we want to be both a long form platform and a short form. And then shopping is the other area that is nascent for YouTube. And if I'm sure you guys are on TikTok all the time, on Instagram, other platforms in APAC, live shopping on your social media platforms has been going on for the last couple of years and has really taken off with COVID. And I would say that's a huge area of focus now for YouTube to kind of get there too. We have a lot of opportunities. So that's what I cover right now. And I'll get into, as we talk more, I'll get into what exactly my role is in content partnerships. But just by way of getting here at YouTube, I started off in my certificate for journalism. I needed to do the summer internship as a rising senior, so summer after junior year, and Elise Goldwasser and public policy helped me find the right fit for my internship, and that was at Larry King Live at CNN. Larry just sadly passed away, and that's a show that's been off air for a little while, but it was an amazing experience to understand what media was like, especially television I would say entertainment journalism. And I was almost like a production assistant in my internship. And I learned from that internship, okay, this is the creative side of media. And I loved it, but I thought maybe I wanted to learn more about the business side. So right out of college, I went to the Atlantic Media Company. Also a lot of Duke connections there. And that was the Atlantic magazine was the flagship, had just changed ownership to a new owner essentially. And they were looking to become profitable because back then they weren't. So I was a marketing associate at the Atlantic magazine, and they turned it around and they're now doing wildly well and they have wonderful content. Super proud to be an alum there. And I went to DC right out of college and spent a year there and then realized I wanted to live on the West Coast. And I did that print stint at the Atlantic and thought, okay, what about digital? And ended up just really wanting to live in San Francisco and moved out without knowing exactly what I would do. And another Duke connection, I went back to Elise and said, who do you know lives in San Francisco from Duke, maybe public policy, that could just talk to me about life on the West Coast? And she gave me a list of 5 people. And one of them returned my email and said, yeah, let's have coffee. I work at Google. Come down to Mountain View. So I got my rental car and I drove down to Mountain View and it was all kind of last minute. And Emma McKeithen is an amazing, she's an 03 alum, also public policy, obviously. And she's a dear friend and she was wonderful to take time to talk with me and just give me, the lay of the land at Google and life on the West Coast. And I felt so connected to her because she's a Duke alum. And she then an opportunity came up that was entry level at Google. I had 1 year at the Atlantic in marketing and advertising. And I was able to get that role and it was on the sales side of Google. And to cut this down a little bit, because this is a long intro, I then spent a lot of time in the sales organization at Google, kind of grew up through that, worked a lot with technology partners. So HP, Apple, Samsung, consumer electronics, and showing them how to do advertising products at Google. And then did a stint in VR, and I can talk a little bit about that. It was super fun. It was content partnerships and content business development for VR as Google played in that role. Through that, I did a lot with YouTube and loved VR video specifically, loved my time working with YouTube. And then they came to me and said, we'd love you to come over and help lead VR partnerships on the YouTube side. So I transferred over to YouTube, which has always been a dream. And then that's evolved from VR into working with brands and now into shopping. So Aaron, that was a very long-winded introduction, but it shows like Duke played a role in all of that. And it still does. I feel so connected to Duke alums who are at YouTube with me. And just so grateful for all the people that have played a role. Tony Brown and Susan James, who's on here too, have played such a key role in guiding me in my career and giving me advice. So anyway, Aaron, hopefully that gives you a little context on who I am.
That's great, and worth emphasizing, of course, to anyone on here from Duke is, the value of that Duke network, and a lot of your opportunities are reaching out, and Dukies love to help Dukies, and so make sure you leverage that. It's something I wish I had learned a little earlier in my career. Okay, so I want to get into kind of all these like specific logistics of YouTube and that platform, how to think about that platform. But first, I guess I want to zoom out a little and just ask, you mentioned that YouTube was kind of a bit of a dream for you and something you always enjoyed. I guess one of our first questions come from Christina Yo. She asks, what got you interested in social media, tech media space in the first place? Kind of what makes you, kind of continually passionate about this industry?
Yeah, I think the ability to shape an industry to be, obviously this is all evolving and it's been around, it's nascent over the last like 10, 15 years, and to be somewhere that's still forming, that's still charting a path. There's a lot of complexities with social media. It's a platform for entertainment, which I love. It makes people happy. There's also a lot that comes with that, with responsibility and figuring out how do we, in this world of social media, how do we make that safe for users? How do we make it enjoyable? How do we integrate shopping, which is what we're focused on, but do that in a way that doesn't feel overly productized? How do we make it safe for kids? How do we, there's all these complexities. And Susan Wojcicki, who's our CEO, said this really well. She said, we brought this, social media came to be, and then it exploded before we really ever figured out the rules and how to do it in a way that's really responsible as a collective between all of the big tech companies. And so I actually really feel passionate about our leadership too. And one of the reasons why I'm still at YouTube and I've been at Google for so long is I do think they're trying to do the right thing. And I think we have such a responsibility. So I would say the two reasons I'm at YouTube and in social media and tech is the entertainment possibilities. And I've always loved entertaining content and telling stories through content, connecting people through content. That's number one. And then number two, just the responsibility piece, helping make the world better with social media and trying to figure out how to do that responsibly with limiting hate and limiting, all of the bad stuff that can happen on social media.
Yeah, and that's of course, such a big part of even what I think about when I think about social media is, it gets kind of a bad rap, but the reality is, it is so many kind of incredible things and offers so many possibilities, and the knowledge opportunities and learning opportunities, especially on a platform like Google, just didn't exist when you and I were in high school. I couldn't just like watch a video of a master class from the greatest violinists in history and learn how to play violin, right? And now you can. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah. And I think too, we just took a cross-country trip for 6 weeks. I told Susan this in our camper van, and outfitting our camper van to take a toddler and a dog and 2 adults. My husband spent a lot of time on YouTube learning, how do we build it out? We've done a lot of housework and construction with COVID and having moved just before COVID. So we've so much time on YouTube learning. And I think that power to it, learning how to do something. Susan, thank you. Learning how to do something on YouTube. I think a lot of people come to YouTube to learn. So that power too, I think, is to teach and connect creators, experts to people who want to learn. Super powerful angle.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of see I'd like that hopefully this conversation kind of goes in kind of 2 tracks. With the first one, I'd love to just get your take on kind of the social media landscape, social media industry, and how YouTube kind of fits into it. Because a lot of what we discuss in our social marketing course is, functionally, you can do a lot of the same things on every platform, right? I can post videos to Facebook. So why does YouTube exist in relation to Facebook? And trying to understand how these platforms serve different values. So that's kind of one part of what we're going to talk about. I should say there's 3 things. So that's one thing. Second thing is kind of practical tips, tricks, advice on, how, if you're thinking of being a content creator, what are some kind of interesting insights you might be able to give the audience here? And then the third thing, of course, is kind of the career angle of it. If you're not looking to be a creator, but you're looking to work in the industry, kind of your thoughts into those things. So just for everyone listening, that's kind of how we'll divide it up. And so I'll try to pause between those 3 segments and open the floor for questions as well. But so to start in that kind of beginning landscape piece, how do you at Google think about the relationship of YouTube versus these other social media platforms, and what role YouTube plays in comparison to them?
Yeah, I think our creator set and we got started in the video space. Again, Google acquired YouTube in 2006. I think YouTube started in 2005. So it's been around a good long time. And I would say a couple of things make YouTube unique, and all of the social media platforms have value and have different angles. But the way I see YouTube is this center for learning. Like I mentioned, I think long form content, and we can talk a little bit more about that when we talk about content creation, but long form has been the bread and butter. So our system rewards users and creators who create content and put it up. And average view duration is a huge metric, or watch time. Watch time is taking views times average view duration. And we're really rewarding videos that are posted that are 5, 10, 15 minutes long, and that really keep users engaged for that long form content. So I think it's a place to go when you really want to learn, you want to be entertained, and you want to do that and feel like you're getting really good content that engages you for a good long period. So that's been the kind of the past and where we're still going to continue to play. I would also say the creator ecosystem is super valuable and notable for YouTube. And there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of creators that have come nascently to TikTok that aren't even creating for YouTube. and that we're trying to say, okay, here's value to YouTube, and we have a short form option now, and let's see how we can do something uniquely YouTube that's short form content. So we're starting to play in that space. I think, so I'll go back, the creator ecosystem I think is really important. And we have all sorts of verticals that I think gives us a breadth of library. So everything from fashion and beauty creators that you might follow, gaming is the second largest vertical, film and TV. So Netflix and all of the big entertainment companies have YouTube channels, and they're doing a really good job of creating ancillary content. They're being creative about the content they put on YouTube that's supplementary to what they have on their traditional shows. Health is a huge area. I would say that it's become a huge thing over the last year and a half. That's a vertical that we want to have reliable health content, obviously, with everything going on. And so getting real content and real factual content from healthcare providers. We have an incredible Dr. Garth, who's come on recently to our partnership side of things. He's done a great job of getting health information out on YouTube. So that's a big vertical. Social impact is another one. Brands, some of the stuff I work on. How do we get Apple and Samsung and Target and Sephora and brands that everybody kind of loves? How do we get them to create better content, not just ads, and not just put ads up on their YouTube channel, but actually make content we want to watch? That's another area. Let's see, fitness, huge, I think, potential, and a lot of great fitness creators that I follow on YouTube. So there's a lot of verticals that I think, are just uniquely native to YouTube, and that YouTube started that whole creator influencer piece. And I think we need to continue to evolve. Okay, what are the tool sets that we offer to creators? What are the formats that we offer to creators that help them reach their users so they continue to be excited about creating for YouTube? And then just TikTok, I think, is doing a great job with entertainment and making it so swipeable, digestible, easy to discover. You get lost in the rabbit hole of just, swiping up and down. And I think the discoverability thing with TikTok is great. I think YouTube, we could do a better job of discoverability. Live stream, for example, live is really important. YouTube's done a good job in live. Twitch, I think people think of Twitch and live and gaming probably before YouTube, although YouTube has, I think, more watch time hours than live and gaming. I think there's potential to make live more discoverable on YouTube. So the whole discovery engine, I think we have some improvement to do, because you can be on your home on YouTube, you can be watching videos, and then you go watch next and suggested pop up, and that's how you discover. But what about pushing content forward in recommendations and other surfaces, and how do we do that in a way that makes it easy for you to find content? That's one area I think we will really focus on over the next couple of years.
And that's so it brings up a couple of interesting questions that people had. So I guess the first one is, and you kind of alluded to it. You said trying to get brands to create interesting content as opposed to just advertisements. Chloe Ward wanted to know what type of what specific companies do you think are doing a good job with this kind of content and attracting audiences? Were any that you would point out and kind of point us toward?
Yeah. So GoPro, I'll just name a few. GoPro does a really good job of feeling like a content creator naturally, less like a brand and more like a current creator. Red Bull, same thing. They feel like an organic YouTube creator. They've taken their brand and turned it from, a consumer packaged goods, a drink, to a lifestyle brand. I think YouTube and their YouTube presence plays a lot in that, with adventure sports, the way they shoot their content. I would look at Red Bull. Lego's another one. Lego's delightful. So if you think of content that's going to make you happy, if you look at all of the series that they've created and the really cool stuff that they show you that you can do with Legos, it's mind blowing. That's got to be the next stage with our toddlers, to once he's out of the chewing phase, and getting him into Legos will be really fun, and watching the videos of all the things you can create. Lego does a great job at that. Apple does a great job too. Our team specifically works with them. They allow live stream all of their big product announcements, which they just had on Tuesday, the latest one. They live stream them all on their YouTube channel. Just a quick anecdote there is that they only live stream on Twitter previously. And then my team started talking to them and trying to explain, okay, here's how we can really help you, handhold you through the live streaming process, because it is complicated on the YouTube side. Here's the benefits of live streaming on YouTube. Here's all the tools we can drive viewership. Here's how you can drive with the pre, during, and post live stream strategy. Here's how you can drive excitement around it and build buzz. And now Apple puts every live stream up on YouTube, which is great. And they're driving their peak concurrent views, and their total views are pretty incredible. They're performing the same as a creator would, a top creator would. So I think they have over 14 million subscribers on their channel, and they just did their product announcement. So you guys can take a look at that. And Apple's one of those companies that Tim Cook needs to approve anything like this. So it's going all the way up to the CEO level to approve whether they do shorts or whether they do a live stream. So anyway, we're proud of that one and proud of that partnership. So those are all, I would say those are really good examples of brands doing it well in a way that's fun and unique. I could go on and on about the list of best practices there.
And maybe hopefully we'll get to some of them, because I know one of the things that the group is hungry for is kind of specific tips and tricks. But I'll ask one more kind of contextual question, and then maybe we'll move to some of those, because you alluded to it, which is this idea of kind of the TikTok and kind of these shorter form videos as people's attention spans continue to kind of shorten. This is Catherine's question: as people's attention spans shorten, how are you seeing brands adjust their advertising strategies, brands and creators adjust their advertising strategies on YouTube?
Yeah, I think that we've come out with formats on the YouTube side, ad formats that are, 6-second bumpers and shorter form ads to capture exactly what you're talking about. I would say shorts is the next big thing that we need to figure out what the brand strategy is there. A lot of the brands that I mentioned previously want to see best practices for short form content. They don't necessarily know yet. They see challenges and all the cool stuff that the brands have had success with on TikTok, and that's unique to TikTok. And so they want to see, okay, what does that mean for YouTube? How is it unique? What can we do with shorts? And I would say, I'm just being honest, we're coming up with that narrative right now. What is the right way to do shorts on YouTube? What's the unique formula? And I would say I don't really have the answer for you all yet because it's nascent. But we're trying to figure out, and I think shoppy shorts and shoppy content, if you guys look at TikTok, there's so many trends that happen. TikTok made me buy it, that whole trend. We've got to figure out how to do that in the same time that makes content feel, I would say, shoptainment, that whole piece, figuring out how to make YouTube unique there. There's a lot of examples of, there's another one that if you guys seen this on TikTok, where a non-influencer, she's just a regular person, not even trying to be an influencer, did a demo of a product that reduces under eye bags. And she just had the camera on her while she did the demo for, I don't know, maybe it was like a 4-minute long video. And it was mind blowing. And it made me go immediately to the product. I haven't bought it yet, and I think it actually sold out. But stuff like that. And that was it was a longer TikTok video than I think I'm used to, but it was such a powerful, and she wasn't even trying, the company hadn't paid her to do it. She was just trying to share out, look what it did for me. It's life-changing. So there's a lot of that going on TikTok. And I think we're primed to take advantage of that with our creator ecosystem. And we just have to figure out a way to do it that's uniquely YouTube. The other thing I will say is that with attention spans, to your point, shrinking, YouTube is not easy compared to putting up a not very polished, like just putting up a TikTok, putting up an Instagram photo, right? Where you just make a beautiful photo and you post it on Instagram. Those are pretty simple. We're trying to figure out how to also make it easier to create for YouTube. And if anyone who's posted a YouTube video or created a channel, there's something like 200 steps involved to get going on YouTube. And then to really understand how you're going to win in the algorithm and build your channel and build your audience, it takes time, takes a lot of effort. And there's ways to do it, and people have been uber successful on it. But YouTube is not as easy as we want it to be. If you think about a small business who wants to create a presence on YouTube, not as easy. All the companies I named of best practices who are doing it well as brands, those are all huge brands. And they have teams that can be dedicated fully to creating content for YouTube. So I think, it's kind of a non-answer to say how are short form content really working well on YouTube, because I think we're just starting to get there. But we're starting to play in that space. And I think we also, as we lean into short form content, that's going to be a tool creation that makes it easier to be on YouTube.
It's interesting to hear you say. I literally actually just spent like $2,000 in like camera equipment, and as part of my research and work here is figuring out these kind of logistical structures, and I've been in these rabbit holes of YouTube videos of how to do lighting and how to do sound production, and there's this kind of lift, and it actually goes back to I just had a conversation with Jacob Lodwick, who was one of the founders of Vimeo, and kind of the creation process. One of the things he was talking about with things like Vimeo and YouTube, how they were built for creators, and and Vimeo kind of moved away to be kind of more of a video platform for companies. Yeah. But one of the things he was most impressed about at YouTube is that this was the platform for people who wanted to create video content and be able to post online, whereas TikTok is people who aren't necessarily so passionate about video, but video is just kind of a means to an end. And so I think that's one of the interesting distinguishing factors. Okay, so let me take a moment. I'm going to pause here and open the floor to questions if there are any about kind of the broader social media ecosystem. YouTube, I know there's questions I'm sure about like how to do X and that, but in career choices, but anything about the broader social media ecosystem? I don't necessarily think there will be, but raise your hand if you got one. Cool. Okay, those are more my nerdy types of questions where I want to know about like the landscape of social media as well. But people want to know kind of more logistical things. So let me jump to a question from Valerie. Is kind of a good starting question. She said, "What are some effective strategies you would offer to beginner content creators who are first trying to build an audience and generate a sustainable following on YouTube?" So what's kind of the 101 your advice coming from inside the company? What should we be thinking about of those 200 steps?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think as you build your channel, looking at best practices for channel. So let me say that there's the three C's: channel optimization, content strategy, and then building your community. So I'll kind of go through each of those three C's and then start with channel optimization. So I think as you build your library of content, think about how you're organizing your channel in a way that's really easy to find the best content, and do that with your playlists on your channel. I'm kind of getting into the nitty gritty here. Some of the most successful creators and the brands that I mentioned, as you build a library of content, there's a couple frameworks to think about. You can think about it as tentpole, original series, and always on content. And this is as you become, I would say, a big creator with the tentpole, but tentpole could be kind of this massive, important events that are maybe twice a year, and kind of something that you would invest a lot of time and resources in. And maybe that's something as you become a creator further down the line, you get into tentpole. But then original series, thinking about what are you uniquely positioned to do? What can you do that's, getting an audience to come back, whether it's once a week on Wednesday evenings or Sunday afternoons, or it's every other day. You have a consistent cadence with your original series, and you're uniquely doing something that feels like your talent and passion that also fits into the YouTube kind of YouTube-ish and YouTube world. There's a lot of formats, and I can share a couple of resources as we finish up. There's a lot of formats that work really well on YouTube: listicles, unboxings, reviews, challenges. There's probably 10 or 15 formats that work really well on YouTube. So think about what are the formats that would work for your particular angle that you're taking. Look on, do searches on YouTube to understand what content really drives the highest viewership. What content really drives a lot of likes and comments, and understand when you do a search for whatever topic you're interested in, look at the different themes that you're seeing from the content that surfaces that's driving a lot of viewership. And you can take a lot of learnings from that. And then always on content is content that could work now and it could work in 3 years. And it teaches, it potentially helps educate people on something that they haven't learned before on YouTube. That is where, when you really get going, it makes a successful strategy for your channel. Content strategy, I kind of touched on a little bit already, thinking about the formats that do really well on YouTube. And then community, there's a lot of features that you can take advantage of. And there's creator collaborations. If you think about the creator community as you build everything that you're doing on the platform, look at creators that potentially create content similarly to you, and understand who those creators are. And then potentially think about, as you get bigger, and collaborations and cross promotion and ways you can tap into their network and also bring some benefit to them. I think the community, the YouTube community and social media in general, there's a lot of willingness to pair up and partner up if there's a right fit there. So that's, I think, an important strategy for sure. The other piece, I mentioned this earlier, is just the algorithm really rewards based on watch time and understanding, okay, this person came to your video, they clicked on, when they saw the thumbnail, whether it was a search or in watch next or on home, that thumbnail, believe it or not, and the title of the video is super powerful and important in driving people to your video. So choosing what the thumbnail looks like, choosing what the title and description, you need to really get across the point of the video and make it fun and accurate. And then it takes you into the video. And then you want the video to be, the sweet spot, maybe 4+ minutes. And that sounds like a long time. So you can think about shorts as a supplementary tactic, but for that sweet spot of content, really getting people in with your thumbnail, and then average view duration, watch time, keeping them tuned in, getting across what you want to say, and hooking them within the first 5 seconds of your video, super important. And then keeping them entertained. And you have to think about ways to do that, whether it's a reveal or just the way you're talking to the camera and what your content is. All of that, you've got to think through, how am I going to get people engaged? And there's a lot of data. If any of you have looked at YouTube analytics, there's a lot of data that helps you understand in YouTube Studio and YouTube analytics what content really resonates with your audience. What is your average view duration? What's your watch time? What was the click-through rate of that thumbnail? And then you can start to figure out what works. There's a lot of materials too, Aaron, I can send you to share with the group about best practices. There's decks that are 50 slides long of how you master, I wouldn't say master, but how you start to think about content creation that will work well with the algorithm.
We'd love those, and definitely appreciate it if you could send them along. Would you mind talking a bit about the algorithm is it's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Can you, and I'm sure it's a question you get a lot, but especially as these students are kind of first learning to understand YouTube, can you talk about the algorithm, why it's important, what kind of feeds the algorithm, any trade secrets you'd like to share, we'll happily take them. I promise we won't tell everyone, just everyone here. But yeah, anything you can tell us about the role of the algorithm and how that factors into kind of life on YouTube.
Yeah, I know it sounds like this black box, same with the Google search side, and there's stuff that we don't, necessarily have insight into either. It's not like we have all the secrets of that black box, but I've touched on it a little bit. I would say looking at content looking at how long people watch content, how many shares it has, how many likes it has. When people choose not to watch that content, the system will understand that and say, okay, for this particular viewer, we're not going to recommend content necessarily like this again because the user didn't resonate. They chose not to watch this content. Where you're watching from, how you're watching, or which device are you watching from? All of those things and many, many more are being factored into the algorithm. But I would say the most important thing is that click-through rate into your video and then your watch time. And the system is really going to reward you for people bringing people, obviously, and getting a lot of views, but then keeping people tuned in. And that's how a video becomes viral. When it's got a lot of people watching it and people like it, people are sharing it, people are watching it for a good amount of time, a high percentage of what the video runs for. Those are all things that kind of factor into the algorithm. And we're thinking about how shorts is different from that. Short form content needs to be thought of differently. So we're not going to penalize a short video if it's created with the shorts tool. We're not going to penalize it for being 15 seconds long. That's absolutely the opposite of the whole point, right? We want to make sure we reward content. So there's a separate way of thinking about short form content on the platform, and thinking about how we're going to monetize that. We don't actually have monetization on shorts yet. So that's another piece. It's just purely posting content and creators posting content, no ads on short form content yet. So lots to figure out on the short side. But hopefully that helps give you a little understanding of when I say algorithm, what it takes into account.
Yeah, definitely. And all things, as I try to tell my students, it's functionally, YouTube has to generate revenue somehow, and they're generating off advertising. So what's going to bring more eyeballs to allow them to sell more ad space too?
And then there's advertising is running ads over your content as a creator is a huge part and very much how creators have been successful and made money. There's also alternative monetization that has come up over the last couple of years. So things like super chat, creators are making money off of that. Memberships, as a creator really builds our audience, they can actually have a membership for their biggest fans, and their fans sign up for a subscription essentially, and then they get tuned into early access or behind the scenes or content or early access, essentially whatever the creator decides to do with that membership. That's been another way for creators to make money. Shopping, as we get into what our model looks like. Affiliate, if you guys have talked a little bit about that right now, a lot of creators put affiliate links in their YouTube description. Yeah. And that's
Amazon, pay me.
Yeah. That's just a way, they're successful in doing that. It's not exactly the best user experience when you think about, you have to click in the little arrow to open the description and then click on a link, and then it takes you off platform. It's a little hacky. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. But it's a way for creators to make money when they're talking about products and they're endorsing products and doing it in a lot of cases just very genuinely because they believe in the product or the product worked for them. If you guys check out a couple videos, I'll send some examples, Aaron, after. We're trying out something where instead of having that kind of hacky affiliate link underneath, or in addition to that affiliate link, when a creator like Refinery 29 is talking about beauty products, one of their influencers is doing a beauty review. You look at the video, you'll see a little view products icon, very similarly to what the Instagram view products icon looks like, come up over the video. You click on the view products icon, and a list of products shows up underneath that of all the products being talked about in the video. And then you can click and have like a very rich experience on a product details page and eventually be able to buy all within YouTube. So we're thinking of ways, and we're coming out with ways to make shopping easier, richer experience if you choose to shop. We also don't want to make it too intrusive.
Yeah, that makes sense. And could you, we talked a bit about kind of what content creators do to succeed on YouTube. Giovanni wanted to know, what have you found that most content creators on YouTube struggle with when they're growing their fan base? What are some kind of red flags you see that you can maybe help us avoid?
Yeah, I think I think the amount of time it takes to really succeed. I think I mentioned all the tentpole original series, evergreen. It's creating content consistently, constantly. I think there has been, especially as bigger creators have called out across all of social media, burnout is a thing that has really come up of, wait a second, am I going to get punished if I'm not creating a video every other day? I need to take a break for 2 weeks. These creators who really, their lifestyle depends on their social media revenue through ads or endorsements, they need to take a break and go off for a little bit. Can they do that? That's been a flag and a concern of creators that we've really worked to address and say, you know what, you can take a break. The algorithm isn't going to punish you if you take a break for a few weeks or a month or a couple months. I think just trying to balance the need for driving watch time and creating consistently, but also not overdoing it. I think that would be something I would say. I think the other, just figuring out monetization. You have to be able to drive viewership, and the way you become eligible for monetization is a YouTube partner program. So I'll just kind of call that out for Giovanni. Is that something like if you want to think about making money, you have to hit the requirements of the YouTube partner program. And I think it's 4,000 subscribers, certain amount of watch time, a couple of other requirements. The reason those exist, the YouTube partner program came up, years ago, but it exists for brand safety reasons, to make sure that when ads are running over a creator's channel, that creator is brand safe. And this all came to a head, I would say maybe it was 5 years ago, when advertisers pulled off all of social media because their ads were running on content that wasn't brand safe. So how do we ensure that ads are just going to run on content that is reputable and that has met thresholds that we set in place to make sure that content, the content ads are running over is brand safe. So that the YouTube partner program is something I will just call out. If you're interested in making money on the platform, you want to reach those goals and those requirements to be able to make money. So I would say those are things of just, setting time aside to really learn what's going to work well on YouTube. So doing your homework as you create, your channel, and that it's not really a red flag. It's just an advice. Thinking about how you do that, but also avoid burnout, and then doing your homework on what the YouTube partner program is to really understand monetization and what you need to do to be able to start monetizing your channel.
Gotcha. And that's really good to hear. I've spoken with a lot of YouTubers, and even as a creator myself, I do most of my stuff on Medium, but there's this like cadence that you have to hit, and creating content every week for years is just exhausting. And so a lot of them I've kind of, that's one of the things they've talked about is the burnout. The other thing they've talked about a lot, which is kind of an inability to change. Like you build an audience around X, and as you mature as a person, your audience still kind of wants X, and you almost have to start playing this character of X instead of being genuinely you, because you almost get penalized, not necessarily by YouTube, but just by your audience, of trying to evolve as a human being, which is just an interesting challenge. Yeah,
you could feel pretty limited and stifled if you want to change. Yeah, there was actually a creator, a big beauty creator, who came to our content partnerships organization. Our organization has partner managers for the biggest creators. So essentially one partner manager to maybe 10 creators based on their vertical. So let's say a gaming creator has a partner manager to help them optimize their channel, help guide them on how they can make more money, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the partner managers for a beauty creator who wanted to become more of a lifestyle creator and shift her content focus, and her audience had sort of, viewership had dropped off. Non-subscribers weren't really tuning into that content as much. Her loyalist fans were excited to watch the new lifestyle content she was creating, but she could tell that it wasn't resonating because everyone thinks of her as a beauty creator and they just want makeup tutorials. So there were some changes that her partner manager recommended of ways to kind of ease into the lifestyle content. And as she started to implement those, think about as you're getting ready to go to an event or a date night with your significant other, you can be doing your makeup tutorial and your beauty to get ready. And then you also can parlay the rest of the video into what you're doing as you go out and your lifestyle content. And so make that transition, figure out how to do it in a way that is not jarring and completely new content. And then as you build that and do that in a way that your fans love it, you can start to taper over into the new area that you want to get into. So there are some strategies of how to transition.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, it's not, don't do a hard pivot.
Right.
Try to figure out how to ease into it.
Right.
right, so I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to pause again here and open the floor to kind of organic questions. Questions about how to build an audience, how to manage an audience. Anything anyone here is wondering about that? And you can just use the hand raise feature in Zoom or type it into chat. All right. Okay. Well, then we will kind of move into kind of the last segment, which is thinking about the career of working at a company like YouTube. And I guess to start with that question, would you mind maybe, Julia, telling us what were some of the kind of most useful, or what were some of the resources that you did during your time in school that kind of helped prepare you for the career? Yeah, I guess that'd be our first question.
Yeah, I think all of the classes that I took in the journalism certificate and within public policy, I had Tony was an incredible professor of the practice, Tony Brown, and social entrepreneurship, being able to do a hands-on project and be thinking about real world, not just academia, super powerful. Susan James wrote for Time and extremely accomplished, and she was also a professor of the practice who came a couple times, taught a couple classes during the week, came down from New York, I believe. William Raspberry was another professor who wrote for Washington Post and came in. So learning from professors who were also, Duke was a day job, and they also had their other day job. That was super powerful. And I think that I can't say enough good stuff about public policy and that major and the stuff I could learn from the other TV journalism. I had a fantastic professor who had worked at NBC News for years, and we did a lot of hands-on going out and filming segments and learning what it would be like to be in front of the camera, behind the camera. That was wonderful because that parlayed into my Larry King Live internship. So all of that professor of the practice and real life experience that came into the classroom, I think really helped me prepare. I also think that Duke Network, we talked about this, but that has been so valuable. It really has. I think continues to be super valuable. I was just thinking about someone who was at YouTube for a long time, and she left a couple of years ago, but she was a Duke 03 grad, and someone I just really look up to, and I want to check in with her because she's someone who knows YouTube well, who knows Duke, who I just respect so much. And I want to just have a career conversation with her to understand how she's thinking about what she's doing next. She has 3 kids. She's a super awesome person. So I want to check in with her because I really trust her. There's another person. When I asked my manager at YouTube, who should I be thinking about as someone to emulate and look up to? And he named 2 people, one of which was a class of 04 grad who's a close friend of mine who's fantastic, also a Dookie. And so there's people that helped me get here. And I told you that long-winded story of Elise and Tony and Emma and all the Dookies that helped me get here. And then now I'm here at YouTube, and there's people I really look to as advisors and friends and mentors who are also Duke grads. So I think just be willing to have, reach out, and Dukies are so willing to help other Dukies do that. I think being willing to reach out, think about things that you can bring to the conversation, ways that you can, not necessarily help to, but things that you can have a relationship where it feels like you're not just asking for things, but you can bring something to the table or bring a perspective to the table and have a conversation that feels kind of mutually beneficial. Those are, I think, some of the things, Aaron, that have really like Duke for me in choosing my career path have been so formative.
And now let me ask the converse question, which was looking back on your time as a student, what do you kind of wish you didn't waste time on, or for you was maybe not as effective to? What would you do over again?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were, let's see. I don't admit that many regrets. I did study abroad. I wouldn't change this for the world. I did study abroad in Sydney, and I loved every minute of that. I'm not sure if any of you guys have done or if study abroad maybe was
COVID,
been on pause.
What's that?
Yeah. All right, guys. Sorry, guys. I wouldn't change that for the world. I loved that. I would say, I also did a lot of classes that, even though we had what was it, Curriculum 2000, Aaron, the matrix of, I don't know, I doubt that's.
We don't call it Curriculum 2000.
Oh my gosh.
It's still here.
I did a good job though of trying to think about classes that were really going to interest me. And I did a lot of film classes. I did classes that were just like super interesting. They were also, I thought about my career, but I also just loved the classes that I took. I would say, what would I do differently? There are probably classes that I should have, whether it was like attendance, make sure I go. I think like econ, I didn't love it, but I didn't necessarily feel passionate about it, but I probably could have learned a lot on the econ side if I had been more, just, I guess, proactive in exploring what was in the econ. And a lot of people, I think econ's maybe one of the top majors. That's still the case. I think I could have, enjoyed and really, if I leaned in more in econ, found classes that fit well and helped prepare me for the business side of media and prepare me on this side. It's hard for me to say that there's many regrets though. It's just been it was such a great place to be.
Yeah, I can list them off like a laundry list. Man, I shouldn't have taken that organic chemistry class, and I probably should have gone to more parties and maybe done a little less studying, or maybe cut that part of the video. It's like, especially when we're talking about media industry and stuff like this, a lot of the learning happens from the students around you and the kind of the interpersonal relationships you make. And sometimes I think it's important for students to understand that it's not all the grades. It's a lot of the, a lot of the social interactions are critical. So going forward, I'd love to kind of get your take on where do you see the social media industry heading? Because of course that's the opportunity for all these students as they're looking to graduate. It's it's not kind of the past of social media, but the future. And so, especially with your work with AR and VR and the brand partnerships and shopping, as social media platforms increasingly become shopping platforms, like where should we be focusing in terms of future career opportunities and marketing opportunities and things like that?
Yeah, I think look at all of these platforms and understand, like, what do you like about them? What's the differences? We touched on it a little bit. I think the future, I do think shopping is, especially now, there's a lot of momentum. I think you can look in and try to understand the trends going on in APAC, where live shopping is taken off, and whether that is applicable in the West as it is in APAC, Asia Pacific. TBD, whether that will stick the way it has, but I do see a lot of opportunity there. And I think as you think about what you're doing and what you're learning and how that will apply, I would say, like, trying to understand the different models of advertising, affiliate models, shopping, how creators make money, that whole piece, and the commercial side of social media, like really understanding that well, I think would parlay into being able to have a great conversation as you talk to people and look for opportunities in social media. So understanding the business side of it, how does it work? It's unique for each platform. So learning how is it, unique. YouTube, I mentioned quickly, is ads model, and then we've got alternative monetization. We're going to move into shopping. Being able to speak fluently to that, or at least have some knowledge of the business side, and then also the creation side, really being able to speak to, if you came into an interview, like, what are the creators that you love? Why do you love them? What's the content that really resonates with you? I think too, one of our VPs who just took off, her name is Kelly Merriman, but look up, there's a couple of articles with Kelly. She came from Netflix over to YouTube 6 or 7 years ago, extremely accomplished in what she has done, both at Netflix and in YouTube. And I look up to her very much. And there's a great article about when she has conversations with potential candidates. One of the things she said is, what would you come in and change? So that's like, if you have career conversations, think about if you looked at YouTube or you looked at Instagram or TikTok, like, what would you do differently? What would you change about it? think about that angle, like what, if you come in to have a conversation, be able to answer that question. Be able to show that you have a point of view of, okay, this is what I like about it, and this is what I think should be done differently. So I kind of turn that question back to you about where the future should go. You guys are you guys are you're in the target demographic. You are the people, the everyday user using it hours a day, and you all know better than anyone what direction it should head in. So I think developing your own point of view that's, unique, companies would fall over themselves to hear what you think the future should be and which direction it should go. So I'm actually curious what folks on this would actually say to that, if they think there's something that YouTube could be doing better, or TikTok or Instagram or all of the above.
Any thoughts? She's got it's like a working group for her, focus group. What do you wish YouTube, you have someone who's executive at YouTube. What do you want YouTube to do for you? Anyone?
It's perfect the way it is. Oh, we got a hand.
We got a hand. Emily, what do you want YouTube to do for you?
Well, I was just thinking about how obviously every social media platform, their name, like what at their inception they were made for, like YouTube, longer form content. And I think it's really interesting that nowadays, like every platform is kind of combining every other platform's aspects, or whatever you want to call them. But I think that YouTube should just continue focusing on long form content, because that's what I go to YouTube for personally. Like I scroll through my subscriptions and I see shorts, and I don't necessarily go to YouTube for that, so I don't end up watching them. Maybe I should focus on that a little more. But I was actually curious, in that same vein, how, instead of like comparing and analyzing YouTube in relationship to other social media platforms and developing new aspects of YouTube, how are you guys really focused on like maintaining the core of YouTube?
Yeah, I think great question. I think the core of YouTube is super important. How do we make sure that I talked about the verticals that we know are all present on YouTube: fashion, beauty, gaming, sports, news, health, brands. I think we need to continue to infuse the right tool sets, not on the short side, but just give creators the ability to make content more easily and then be discovered more easily. And we're doing that. I think product and engineering are listening to that. It's hard. Creators feel like they have to create really kind of polished content, giving them tools to make it easier so that it doesn't have to feel so like such a, just to post one video, such a time consuming thing or such a resource intensive thing. Giving them the right, way to boost discovery, I think is the other piece that I mentioned this before, that we need to work on to help the core. And then I think just like continuing to give creators incentives to create long form content and figure out ways to make it attractive for them. I mean, typically that means giving them the right tools and features, but also making sure that it's profitable, and figuring out ways to make more money. And ads is obviously one, but what are other opportunities so that creators feel like they're getting bang for their buck when they're spending a lot of time creating content? So those are all, I think, the tools and feature sets, giving the opportunity for monetization, coming up with, so social impact is an area that we've really leaned into. Getting content from a lot of representative voices instead of just kind of the typical creator that has become our bread and butter. We've done $100 million fund to try to get more represented voices and more diverse voices on the platform. So things like that, thinking about within the different verticals, what we can do uniquely. News, we've had same thing. We've worked with a lot of kind of news outlets and giving them grants to bring good, reputable content on the platform. So by vertical, thinking of ways, and we're doing that, to kind of infuse new life and bring opportunities with feature sets and financial reward.
Thank you for that answer. That was great. Okay, Grant, another quick question, and then I think we got to wrap up.
Question. So I was just wondering if you think that, you kind of touched on the idea of, incentivizing people to make more long form content and also like making like an economy so that there can be creators. And I was just like wondering if you think that the platforms owe it to the creators to be a little bit more upfront in terms of how much money they make off the monetization, in terms of how they actually draw the line between what they give to creators and what they take of that.
Yeah, no, I think we should be really upfront. So I think with YouTube, and I'm not as clear on how the other platforms do it. With YouTube, their revenue share split is, I think, transparent when you sign the service agreement and come on in YouTube Partner Program. And then you can see within YouTube Studio, YouTube Analytics, how much you're making by whether it's through the ads or alternative monetization. You can see exactly where it's coming from. So that piece is pretty clear. I think we should be very transparent, and that needs to continue to happen. We need to give creators all the ability to see exactly what they're driving. I think of affiliate models where, we mentioned you put your affiliate link in your description, and you hear about how the various affiliate models, some are more transparent than others. That's obviously based on commission. So as someone clicks on the link that you put in your video and goes off and then buys a product, being able to track, okay, I made this much money because XYZ or X users bought the product, having insight into that whole path and that purchase funnel and the commission that you got. I think that part it's gotten better. We don't play in the affiliate space yet, but that's an example, just to your point, of trying to make it really clear for creators how they're going to make money and what's contributing to the exact money they make. So yeah, I do think transparency is really important. I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. If you have examples, though, if you think that that's not, if you disagree with me, please say so.
I think that's a really good answer. And Julia mentioned something here as I was thinking about if you want to get into the social media industry, and thinking about the business behind these businesses, which is of course what we discuss a lot of in my class on it, is that these are companies here that are they're companies. They're there to make money, to generate revenue, to fill a bottom line, profit motivated. And not that they don't have other motivations, but that is a big part of why they exist. Creators, the vast majority of creators, the old 80-20 rule, the 20%, the top 80% of value on social media platforms are creators who are doing it in kind of a business model and business for themselves. And so understanding that and understanding these kind of fundamental principles is kind of key for working in the industry. And also, if I just to kind of back up Julia here, I think creators themselves understand and have a good bit of transparency and understanding of how they're monetizing. I think it's the general public that tends to think of it as opaque or not really realize that, PewDiePie isn't doing this just because it's a fun time, right? He's doing it because, this is the whole business for him, and he's got a team of people behind him, and it's cranking out millions of dollars, right? And so he's probably pretty aware. It's more the average user who's more of a fanboy doesn't realize that PewDiePie isn't just some dude hanging out randomly filming himself. He's got a business.
He very much does. And you guys take a look at the YouTube Partner Program, because you'll see what you can understand a little bit better about the ads monetization through that. And look at just go and search YouTube Partner Program, and you can get more information there. And you think like Mr. Beast, if you look to the point of shorts, you're not really watching them. Creators are worried about, and Aaron, you brought this up, about changing their format or changing their content too abruptly. So you'll see like on Mr. Beast's channel, he has a separate channel for shorts. You'll see on a creator, Simply Nail Logical. She's a beauty creator doing obviously nails. She's got a channel for Simply Nail Logical, who's her core channel with 7 million subscribers. And then she's got her live stream channel with 2 million plus subscribers. And she's doing all of our live content on a separate channel. So that's another thing that like you could think about, having multiple channels in your, bigger creator. I wouldn't say that right up front. That might do different things for different types of audiences. A couple of the biggest creators, or a lot of the biggest creators, have tried that approach.
Interesting. Okay, so I know we're out of time. Can I ask you one final question? If you just have 2 minutes to answer. You probably got important board meetings to go to and stuff like that while we're sitting here. And like important things that are changing the world of YouTube. But I always like to finish with one question. If you could go back in time and talk to the the 20-year-old version of yourself sitting in a class at Duke University, what one thing would you have told yourself, or do you wish someone had told you? And it could be about social media or about anything. Just kind of one thought.
Yeah, I think it's really let yourself be open to new opportunities. And I mean that in a way that, like, I would go back and tell my 20-year-old self, talk to a lot of people and don't be worried. Like, you'll learn something from every opportunity and every job that you take. Now, I'm also saying that when I've been at the same company for 15 years, but I've done multiple things within this company. I think be open to taking an opportunity and learning from it and figuring out what you like, what you don't like, building a network at that. Maybe it's your first job. Maybe it's not the perfect dream job, your first job out of college, but there's so much you can learn. And then take that and then really learn from it what your story is, craft your story and your quote unquote brand. I know that sounds kind of obnoxious, but think about what that is uniquely you. And every opportunity, every job that you're in, you will be able to craft that story even better. And I think I was so worried I remember at the Atlantic Media Company, I was so worried about feeling like what is next? I got to find the perfect job. I have to be passionate about it. It has to be changing the world. I have to be able to make money. It has to be perfect. And I think that's a good aspiration, but you don't need to do that. You don't need to have that pressure on yourself, because any opportunity you're going to take, as long as it's something you are interested in, is going to give you a network. It's going to give you learnings. It's going to give you, you're going to benefit from it. So I would just say, don't put so much pressure on yourself to find the perfect job. There's so much good stuff you're going to take from it. And then second thing is just take advantage of your Duke network. It's one of my favorite things about Duke. And then Aaron, you asked me about my regrets. That one just came to me. It was actually my husband's. My husband's class of 2004 at Duke. We did not date at Duke. We knew each other, and we kind of connected later. But I mentioned Tony. He did retire. Carolina, I think you mentioned in the chat, he did retire last year. He was such an important and still is influence for me, and having that relationship with a professor. Aaron, I'm sure you have this with your students. I think my husband didn't feel that coming out of engineering, and just didn't have the time to make those lasting relationships with professors. So I would do that. I think having that connection to a professor and being able to stay in touch with these people who are so informative, and spending time with them outside of class just to ask questions and office hours, take advantage of that. That is unique to Duke and unique to your college experience. You may never get that opportunity again. So those are my three things. I think about what your story is. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to find the perfect job, because you're going to learn a lot from whatever decision you make. And then three, think about the professors in the classes that you're in, and spend time, going to office hours, having conversations, building a relationship outside of class.
I as one of those professors, I couldn't agree more. So thank you and as one of those former students who didn't do enough of it, I couldn't agree more. So thank you so much for spending the time with us. We really appreciate it. Everyone who's on the call, thank you for being here. Again, this is the Social Media Career Speaker Series coming at you from Social Media Studies. Put the link in the bio, or link in the chat here. Subscribe to our mailing list so you know about new events that are coming up. If you're not already subscribed. Julia is a Duke alum, and has said she loves helping Dukies, so I'm sure you can find your way to her if you have questions, connect with her on LinkedIn, things like that. This is brought to you again, Social Media Studies, Innovation Entrepreneurship, MMS, Marketing Management, and Dinin. And we'll have another one of these in a couple weeks with a YouTuber. Actually, we have a Duke alumni YouTuber coming up in a couple months here. Julia, thank you again for joining us. And we look forward to seeing what's next on YouTube.
Great. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for being engaged. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.